Well, good day. I'm Martin Tyner with the Southwest Wildlife Foundation, and we brought my little friend here with us today. This is Scout, the golden eagle, and Scout is one of my dearest friends. He's one of our wildlife ambassadors. He's one of our falconry birds, and it's kind of a special day for us today. This is our 15th anniversary that Scout and I have been together, and so we're just going to kind of visit with everybody and tell everybody about Scout's story and how we got him and where he came from. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to ask. That's what it's all about, is be able to answer people's questions about uh, the Wildlife Foundation and the work we do with these critters. So shall we get started, big guy?
I, I,
As you can see, pardon?
I sort of hosted. I forgot to just put you on the solo screen at first, and I was waiting for the thing to come up. So it
Oh,
was like it was our buy spring screen thing for a little bit.
oh,
That,
that's okay.
that was our little preview show. Usually Martin and I talk for a
Yes.
little bit before we go live, and I forgot to switch it. Sorry, guys. I know you want to see Scout. I certainly do.
Scout's the most important. He truly is. Well, let's talk about golden eagles a little bit. First and foremost, he's a full adult. Golden eagles, from the time they hatch, they're full grown, this large, in about 12 weeks. So they grow tremendously quickly. This eagle has over 7,000 feathers. All 7,000 feathers only weigh about a pound or so in weight. They're very, very light. Um, the feet are what everybody is have to be cautious of. Look at those feet. 600 pounds per square inch of crushing power in those feet. He can drive those talons through my glove and crush the bones in my hand. Fortunately, Scout likes me. He's a dear friend, and he's been my companion, like I said, for the past 15 years. Now he's not the first eagle that I've had for falconry, but he has been my most recent one. But let's talk a little bit about where Scout came from. Scout is what we call a depredation bird. Basically, a farmer felt he was a threat to his livestock, and I was called in to rescue him and remove him before the farmer gets a permit to shoot them. Now, please understand, if you're a farmer and you feel that any kind of wildlife is a threat to your livestock, you can get a permit to shoot almost anything. And so basically, we want to prevent that. And so I was called in to travel to Wyoming because Scott was living up in Wyoming and to rescue him. Now, to be able to do that takes some very, very special permits. You can't just say, "Oh, well, I'm going to go trap an eagle." That's extremely illegal. And in fact, even having a feather from an eagle like this is against the law, both state and federally. So they're the most highly protected animals in North America. So let's go ahead and start with what it takes to have an eagle. The first thing that you have to understand is to have an eagle for falconry. There's very few reasons that you can have an eagle, but you have to have a reason. And an eagle that is an educational bird, and you're an educational facility, and you've got a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and part of your responsibilities to provide educational programs, and that includes raptors. Well, that you can get a permit to get an eagle on an education permit. The other way to get an eagle for falconry is that you must have an eagle falconry license. Now, in order to do that, the first thing you must do is become a falconer. And to become a falconer, you need to read every book on falconry that you can find. There's a written test that you must pass. And the test is administered by the state fish and game. And like most government tests, the test is extensive and badly written. And so most people who take the falconry test will fail it the first time. There are several questions on the test that are multiple choice, and you'll have two, three, four answers that are correct, and you have to choose the answer that may not be the most correct, but is the answer that the person that wrote the test is looking for. And so sometimes it's pretty hard to get in the mind of the person that actually in the state fishing game that wrote the test to understand what answer they're looking for. And so, like I said, most people fail the test the first time, and then after understanding the test a little bit better, they pass it on the second try. Once you have the test taken care of, then you have to have all of your facilities inspected to make sure that you have all you need to care for the bird properly. You have to have the proper housing. You have to have the proper equipment, like on his legs here, the Jessies that we have here. You have to have the proper perches and the proper scales, and the proper telemetry and water pans and bath pans and just everything. You have to have all the equipment that you need. And that's a fairly long list, and it can be quite expensive to do that. Once you have your equipment all gathered up and inspected, so that it's inspected by one of the local game wardens from your state Fish and Game. Once that's done, then you have to apprentice as a student for 2 years under a general class or master class falconer. Now, during your apprenticeship, you're limited as to the birds that you can have. You certainly cannot have an eagle. 2 years of apprenticeship. Once you've graduated your apprenticeship, then you are now considered a general class falconer. And again, now there's a wider variety of birds of prey that you can legally have for falconry. You may not have an eagle. 5 more years before you can apply for a master's license. Once you've acquired a master's license, then you still cannot have an eagle, because once you've acquired a master's license, you have to go another year, a second apprenticeship under an established eagle falconer. And you also have to have spent at least 2 years working with eagles. And so how can you get an eagle falconry license so that you can work with eagles if you have to work with eagles before you get the license? Well, the way through this is to work for a wildlife rescue organization such as ours. So you can get your 2 years experience working with eagles, so you can get your permit to work with eagles. And then once you've got that 2 years experience and you've got 1 more year's experience as a student under an established eagle falconer, you are now qualified to get an eagle for falconry. And unfortunately, that's just the halfway point. Now you have to get an eagle. Now, there are only a couple of ways that you can get an eagle legally. The first of which is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service gives you an eagle. Now, let's say, for example, somebody very illegally stole a young eagle from its nest, kept it at their house, tried to make a pet out of it, incredibly illegal to do so. The eagle has become bonded to humans. It's an imprint, and an imprint eagle can be incredibly dangerous because they have no fear of humans. And so you've got this eagle that's imprinted. It cannot be returned back to the wild, because if it does, it has no fear of humans, and there's a very good chance that if somebody approaches the eagle will hurt them. So that eagle cannot be put back in the wild. That eagle can be provided as an educational bird or a falconry bird. The other way to get an eagle for falconry is to trap a full-grown wild eagle that is considered a threat to livestock. As I said, a depredation bird. And that's what Scout was. Like I said, a farmer thought Scout was a threat to his livestock and wanted the eagle removed. And so I was called in to do this. We drove up to Wyoming, both my beautiful wife Susan and I, and we got up to Wyoming. We checked into a little tiny motel in a town that's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. And this was in southwestern Wyoming, and got all of the necessary paperwork. Before I could even go, I had to get the paperwork from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service saying that I was permitted to go get the eagle. I had to have the permits with the Utah Fish and Game, the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, basically saying that not only could I have the eagle, but the eagle could be imported into the state of Utah legally. I had to get the permits and paperwork from Wyoming, allowing me to go to Wyoming, trap the eagle, and remove it from the state of Wyoming, plus a vet certificate from Wyoming and a vet certificate from Utah. And so it's a tremendously involved process. And so it took us a week. And so we drove up to Wyoming, checked into the motel, talked to the Wyoming fish and game guys that were in that area where the eagle was to be removed from, and got their, and I shouldn't say their blessing, but I certainly got their cooperation, that they knew that I was doing this all legally, and we ran through all the paperwork for them to say that I'm not just somebody coming in to steal an eagle, and that we're going to trap this eagle and remove him. Well, we drove out to the area where Scout was, and basically I identified a good location to set up a trap station. Now, a trap station is basically where we set up the traps to catch the eagle, and we bait it with, in his case, we baited it with dead jackrabbits, because again, they're primarily a scavenger, and they'd rather eat dead rabbits than live ones. And so we found a suitable location, and we would drive out. I would drive out there every day. And the first couple of days, Susan came with me, as we would drive out there, and we had a couple of guys from Wyoming, the fish and game guy and a local falconer as well, that came along, and they were very, very helpful. After a couple of days of just sitting out in the middle of nowhere, watching the area and making little adjustments to the trap set, and so that we could see if we could make it a little more enticing. Susan was tired. In fact, Susan was even talking about, after about the fourth day, she was talking about maybe she just needs to catch a bus back to Utah, because it was this is really boring. And so poor Susan, she puts up with so much. Anyway, so she stayed at the motel, and she went for walks, and she basically watched television, and just bored stiff, as I would go out into the field and out to the trap station, and hopefully this day to catch the bird. And again, it took us a full week, and then the amazing day came, and it was April 13th today. It was April 13th, and it was about I don't know, mid-afternoon, and here comes Scout, and he perches up on a power pole, and he's looking down at the dead rabbits, and he finally decides to glide down to the trap. Now, I'm not going to go into trapping, because that's very much illegal without the proper permits, but I will tell you this much: the trap I use gently ensnares his feet, and we never ever stake the trap to the ground, because if you stake the trap to the ground and he pulled against it, that could injure him. And so we put a weight on the trap so he can drag the weight around, but he cannot fly. And the drag weight that I used was 2.5 pounds. With a 2.5 pound drag weight, this eagle could not get off the ground. Now, for all of you folks out there that have watched these YouTube videos where eagles were swooping down, carrying off children, and carrying off dogs, and carrying off goats and mountain goats and sheep and cows, or Lord knows what, the truth of the matter is that's impossible. Here's a full-grown wild eagle that could not get himself into the air with a weight of 2.5 pounds. So they're capable of carrying approximately 1/3 of their body weight into flight, and so that's all that they can do. Well, as I was watching through my binoculars, I saw a little jump, and I'm going, maybe he's caught, and my heart is just pounding, and then I saw him try to fly, and he went to the ground, and I'm going, okay, he's caught. And so I basically raced down the dirt road to get up to within about 50, 75 feet of him, slam on the brakes, jump out of the car, run across the high deserts of Wyoming, and literally tackle Scout, so that we get control of him as quickly as possible. He was caught by his one talon, this one right there. That's what he was caught with. So that talon right there, and that was it. And then one more good pull and he would have been free. And here's the problem. One more good pull, if he would have gone free, they're super, super smart, aren't you? You're super smart. And he would have never, ever fallen for that trap set again because he would have known better. So, I grabbed him, got the trap off of him very quickly, put a hood over his head to help reduce the stress. That covers his eyes so he can't see, to help so he isn't quite as panicked. And I put him in his travel box, put him in the car. And the first thing we do is we drive over to the local game warden's house and says, "Here's the eagle. We'll show you that we've caught it. It's about a 3-year-old, and it's exactly other than we weren't really too sure if this was a boy or a girl. The golden eagle, the way we tell the sex is by their size. The females on average are a third bigger than the males, but a male golden eagle can range. A small male can go as small as 5 pounds, and a big male can go as much as 9 pounds. And a small female can go about 9 pounds, and a large female can go up to 14 pounds. And so Scout was just under 9 pounds. So he was very much a very large male or a small female. And so he is a large male. We're absolutely positive of that now. But when we first got him, we weren't terribly sure which he was. We had hoped for a male because the males being a little bit smaller are easier to work with than the big females. So now we've got our eagle, and stopped over to the game warden's house and said, "Here you go. This is the eagle that we've trapped," and showed him everything. And again, reassured him, here's all the paperwork and that we're dealing with, and that everything's perfectly legal, and that we've crossed our T's and dotted our I's. And then we had to drive further into Wyoming, about 3 hours further into Wyoming, to the Fish and Game office, because we had to go to the regional office. I believe it was Piney, Wyoming. I believe that's it. Anyway, we had to drive all the way up there, get to the office, walk in, and hand them the whole stack of state and federal permits, both Utah State and Wyoming State, and the federal paperwork as well, and said, here's all the paperwork, and the eagle's in the car. Please come out and inspect him, because they needed to sign off on the situation, and for which they did. They were very polite, and I appreciated that. We had no issues as far as dealing with the state government of Wyoming. And so once we got that done, and so we now have it legal, so that the Wyoming Fish and Game understands. Now we have to contact a veterinarian in Wyoming, and we have to take it to the vet and get a health check. And of course, you walk into a vet's office and you say, "Well, I've got this eagle I need a health certificate for," and they've never done that. They have no idea, and so you have to kind of, here's a health certificate that I brought with me, and you just have to fill this out, and you just have to basically say, "The eagle looks healthy." And they says, "Well, how can we tell?" And this is a veterinarian. I can tell it's healthy. And so then I walk them through all of the signs of a perfectly healthy eagle and not showing any signs of illness or disease. And then we get back and we start heading for southern Utah. Now oh my goodness sakes, we're looking at 12, 14 hours of driving to get back to southern Utah. If it was Salt Lake, wouldn't be so bad. We had to drive all the way back to southern Utah. And so it was a very long drive. It was a really long week to get Scout. Oh, baby, such a good boy. To get my friend. And then the next morning, I have to take it to a local vet here in Utah and have him sign off that the eagle is healthy, and then I have to send the paperwork also to the Department of Agriculture to the state veterinarian that and all of that paperwork to get done to make sure that our importation of the eagle was done legally. Even though these guys migrate and travel across state lines all the time to do this uh, as a falconer and as a wildlife rehabber, it's a lot more complicated. Yes, it's a lot complicated, huh? So we're home. I am absolutely dead tired. We've been on the road for many, many hours. We get the eagle to my vet. That's all taken care of. We make all the necessary phone calls to the Utah State Fish and Game. We fill out all the paperwork. All the paperwork is mailed off to all three state agencies, actually four when you consider the Department of Agriculture. And we've crossed our T's, we've got our I's, everything's legal. And now it is time to develop my friendship with Scout. Now, this is something that is incredibly rare. You know, I rescue eagles, and I have for over 50 years. But the eagles that I rescue, I'm not their friend. In fact, I don't want them to think of me as a friend. I want them to not like people because I want them to go back to the wild and stay as far away from humans as possible. And so the eagles that I rescue, I don't end up holding them, cuddling them, sitting them in my lap, nose to nose, and soothing them, yes, and developing confidence in a friendship. And that process is called manning. And what manning does is it's taking a completely wild animal like this and just assuring the animal that, number one, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm a really nice guy, and here's food. And so I sat with Scout all night. And I sat with him all day. And then I sat with him all night. And I sat with him all day. For 3 days and 3 nights, I sat quietly with Scout downstairs in my basement where it was cool and it was dark and it was quiet. And my sweet wife, Susan, would bring me, lunch and little snacks and those kinds of things. And I had food for Scout. And we just sat very, very quietly with the television, small television on low, just a little itty bitty TV. And we sat there, didn't we? Until Scout decided to eat. And so when Scout decided that I had food right here on my glove for him, that he would reach down and eat on his own, that means he's overcome a great deal of his fear. And he's willing to eat in my presence. And so once he started to do that, then it was time to put him out in his chamber. And I would go out to his chamber several times a day. And I would always go out with food. And I would walk up to him and say, here's a goodie for you. And Scout kind of got to the idea that this is not bad. The guy is nice. He's feeding me and it's comfortable. And there's, comfortable perches and a bath pan. And this is not so bad. And then I do the most horrible thing. I walk into his chamber and he's on his perch and I walk up to him and I've got some food on my glove and I says, well, here's some breakfast for you. And my eagle looks at me in his typical eagle way and he says in his own way, well, bring it here. And I says, well, Scout, you need to step from the perch to my glove and I will feed you. And he says, what? You step from the perch to my glove and I will feed you. Well, he wasn't having any of that. He was not happy with that. Yeah, you didn't like that a bit, huh? Come on, big guy. Yeah, you didn't like that a bit. You didn't like the idea of me changing the rules and saying that you have to step to my glove for food. And after he threw a terrible, terrible tantrum, and he finally calmed down, and I just stood there and I just says, just one step to my glove and you get fed. He stepped to my glove. and he had his breakfast. And then we start to expand from a foot to 3 feet to 6 feet to the length of the chamber, which is about 20 feet long, to now it's time to take him outside, and we go for walks, and we put him on fence posts, and we whistle, and he flies 10, 15 feet to my glove for his food, and we have these wonderful, wonderful walks. We're out on the desert. By now, there's no leashes on him. It's just these leather straps that can be pulled out. He is completely free. And I take this beautiful eagle, especially in the evenings are my favorite time, just a little before sunset. And we walk out through the desert, and he flies off to a fence post, and he flies back and lands on my glove. And I give him a little bit of dinner, and he flies off again. And we just go. It's beautiful, and it's peaceful, and it's just this amazing experience to have this completely wild eagle flying back, landing my glove, trusting me enough, and at this point he's free. He could fly away, never come back. That's his choice. But he does come back, and the reason he comes back is because they're extremely intelligent, and they're an opportunistic predator, and they learn very quickly, if he follows me, I will flush out rabbits for him. And if he doesn't catch a rabbit, he flies back, lands on my glove, I feed him anyway. So the truth of the matter is, this is my hunter, and I am his dog. Because I flush the rabbits, I retrieve the eagle and the rabbits, I assist the hawk to make sure that the rabbit has been killed humanely, and the eagle gets to have his food first, and anything left over comes back to our rescue center to feed the sick, injured, orphaned wildlife that we care for. And so that's kind of the process that we have gone through with Scout, and he's become just a very, very dear friend. Does anybody out there have any questions?
Well, I'd like to send some thanks out. We've received donations from JJK USAF, from SK, from Baltimore Actual, and from Amanda Price.
Wow, thank you, everyone. Thank you for the donations. We appreciate it. That helps us care for the critters. Thank you.
And I've got a question. How did you determine his age?
How did we determine his age? Basically by his feathers. A golden eagle, for the first year, has a really big, bright, thick white band in the middle of his tail that goes all the way across the tail. And then as they age, and every year they drop feathers and grow new feathers, and so every year they lose some of the white in the tail. And so we could look at his tail feathers and see that how much white he's got, and that gives us a pretty good indication of his age.
Okay, we have a question from VIGGEN. Dang, how old can those birds get?
If everything goes well in captivity, Scout will live more than 40 years in captivity. Of course, in the wild, that's a different story. The wild's a tough place to make a living, and so the life expectancy is less than half of that 40 years. So, he right now is 16, 17 years old, and for an eagle in the wild, that's a really old eagle. But in captivity, that's just prime age. So as long as he stays with me, he will have a very, very long life. Now that kind of leads me into the story of my previous eagle, Bud. Now Bud was the same situation. He was a depredation bird, and that we trapped him, and he and I were together for 16 years. And he was an absolute dear friend, very much like Scout, but he was a small male. He weighed about 5 pounds, and Scout here weighs about 8 pounds. And so Bud, unfortunately, about nearly 20 years ago, was bitten by a mosquito and died of West Nile virus. And so I lost my dear friend Bud, and it just absolutely broke my heart. In fact, if you look on the wall behind me, you see a ridiculously large painting of myself, and that is actually my eagle Bud. And that was painted for me by a local artist. He's actually, his name is Steve Allred, and he's a relatively well-known landscape artist. He does these beautiful, beautiful landscape murals and portraits and stuff. That's just wonderful. And I think I'm probably his first human subject that he ever painted. And so we were having a fundraiser to raise money for our wildlife rescue. And Mr. Allred, Steve Allred, was one of my falconry students. And so we invited him to bring his artwork. And for any of the artists that were doing this fundraiser, anything above and beyond what they required for the artwork, anything above that in the auction then went to the Wildlife Foundation. And so unbeknownst to me, when Steve showed up, he brought a fairly good sized stack of beautiful, beautiful landscapes. And then he showed me this, and I'm going, oh my God, I was shocked. I had never seen anyone paint something like that before. And actually, I've had some very sweet people have actually painted myself and one of my birds, and have given me these. But this is the one that's big, hanging here in the living room. But we had it for the auction, and there was a wealthy architect in Las Vegas that bought the painting and made a $5,000 donation to our wildlife rescue organization, and that, so he won the auction for the painting. And after he won the auction, he brought the painting over to me and handed me the painting, says, "This belongs to you." And so he made a $5,000 donation and gave me the painting of Bud and I. And because we've lost Bud, and it still breaks my heart a little bit, but it's wonderful to have a painting of him hanging on my wall. Other questions?
Yeah, we just got a couple, both about Bud. Grandma C here asked, can you protect Scout against West Nile? And then also Christina asked, what can you do to prevent your eagles now from being bit by mosquitoes?
There is a vaccine. Yes, I know you want to go play. That's my boy. There is a vaccine for West Nile that we can give to the birds. But here's the point: is we have not found any proof that it actually has worked. There's no sign. Let me break it down so you can see him a little bit better. There we go. There is no sign of a buildup of antibodies against the West Nile virus, and so it's something that we do give the birds. You do it once a year, but does it work? We really don't know. It's actually, the West Nile is from a horse vaccine that's been the dosage has been reduced down to be able to use it for birds. And as far as mosquitoes are concerned, to be honest with you, I can't keep me from getting bit by mosquitoes. There really is not much that we can do for the birds. We put them back in their chambers when the mosquitoes are out in number, like in the evenings. But even at that, there's no guarantees about not getting bit by mosquitoes. It's just part of life. Yes, but you've been a good boy.
A question from KS. What's the longest time you've ever held Scout on your arm? Scout looks like he weighs a lot.
Well, Scout weighs 8 pounds, so take an 8-pound bowling ball and hold it in your hand, and then walk around for a couple hours and hold that bowling ball. And that'll kind of give you an idea of what it's like holding the weight of my eagle. And then imagine that bowling ball can shift its weight and move around, and you're compensating for it and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's quite an endurance process to be able to handle these big guys. I have done a lot of personal appearances for big conventions where we set up a booth to tell people about the Wildlife Foundation, and to sell copies of our book, and to sell T-shirts, and to fundraise for our wildlife foundation. And in the process of doing so, Scout is kind of the star of the show. And so Scout has sat on my arm nonstop for 10, 12 hours. And so by the end of a 3 or 4 day event, I'm in a lot of pain. It's hard. Yes. Now that's called a rouse, just so you understand. What that basically means is he is just relaxing. He just says, "Oh, I'm going to ruffle up my feathers and then smooth them back onto my body." It's kind of like stretching, like you and I just yawning and stretching and just kind of getting ourselves comfy. Well, that's what a rouse is. That's what he does. And so, yeah, 10, 12 hours for 3, 4 days straight. It's a long time.
Mausoleums, Ghosts, and the Paranormal asks, are you a veterinarian or somewhere along those lines?
I am not a veterinarian. In fact, I'll be really honest with all of you. I was kicked out of college. It's a long story. You don't need to get into that. But I basically I have a high school diploma. That's the extent of my education. I am a federally licensed wildlife rehabilitator. I've been doing this for 50 years, and so I do things that veterinarians cannot do, because a veterinarian would have to have the same training and state and federal permits that I have in order to do what I do. Now I do have 3 veterinarians in town here that I use. So if an animal comes in and it requires a surgery, then I can take it to one of my vets, and it depends on the kind of surgery what vet I take it to, and then basically we sit down, we do the X-rays, and I basically tell the vet what would be the best technique and what we need to do to fix whatever the injury is, because I've got the 50 years experience. My vets are great vets, but they're not avian vets that specialize in raptors. And so between my expertise and 3 very, very good vets, we can do just about anything.
Okay. Light Expeditions asks, how old are golden eagles when they fledge?
When they fledge, they're about 12 weeks old. So from the time they hatch to the time they take their first flights, they're full grown at that point. That's as big as they'll ever get. And so about 12 weeks is about average.
We've got a comment from Ellen C. Pierce. If anyone calls you a bird brain, just say thank you.
Oh, all the time. I am a bird brain. At least I'd like to think so. The truth of the matter is a great unit of measurement for intelligence is brain size to body mass. And if we go by those measurements, the eagle's brain size to body mass, they're smarter than we are. They certainly are one of the most intelligent creatures on the planet. They remember everything. And that could be really bad. You never want to offend your eagle, because an eagle's kind of like a wife. If you offend your wife, wives will never forgive and never forget. An eagle, the same thing. And so if you do something to offend your eagle, 20 years down the road, that eagle will still remember that you did something wrong. And so they're always treated with love and kindness and patience. Everything is positive reinforcement. You don't, in fact, to be honest with you, in the animal world today, it is so much different than when I first started. Today you don't break a horse, you don't break a dog, and certainly you don't break an eagle. Basically everything, a good trainer always uses positive reinforcement, never negative reinforcement. The animals are loved and cared for, and if the positive reinforcement isn't working for you, then you need to figure out a different positive reinforcement to use. But you never ever use any kind of violence or force or negative reinforcement of any kind on any animal. And like I said, these guys, if you offend an eagle like this, the next time he goes flying, He says, to heck with you. I don't need to put up with you. I can just fly away and never come back. And so negative reinforcement never works. It's always positive.
Comment from Black Eagle says, I am from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I follow your channel.
Oh, well, welcome. Thank you. Falconry is such a big part of the culture in Saudi Arabia, and someday I would love to go and visit with Middle Eastern falconers and Middle Eastern falconers, Mongolian eagle falconers. I would love to visit with falconers all over the world and learn their techniques and their practices. Unfortunately, with the work that I do, the carrying of sick, injured, and orphaned wildlife, if I am not here taking care of the animals, there's no one here in southern Utah to take care of the animals. So my poor sweet wife Susan and I, the only vacation we've ever had in our 43 years of marriage is our honeymoon. And other than that, we just stay here and care for the critters.
Jane Miller asks, any update on the white-bellied eagle?
The white-bellied bald eagle is, like I said, eating fine, just kind of doing his thing. There is we haven't had the feather growth that we were hoping for, and so he's just kind of a long-term patient. And as to whether we can get him into an educational program, we're still waiting to hear.
James Smith asks, hey Martin, is Scout able to hunt with you like Belle does?
Yes, Scout does hunt with me like Belle. The difference is because of his tremendous size, he's not nearly as efficient as Belle. And so we can go out with Belle an average year, we'd catch 80 to 100 rabbits in an average year for Belle. For Scout, a really good year, we catch 3 or 4 rabbits. And like I said, it's because of his size. He's not as agile, and eagles are primarily scavengers, and so they do catch rabbits, and that's wonderful. But they would far prefer to eat roadkill rabbits, roadkill deer, roadkill cows, and whatever. They prefer that to actually having to burn all the energy of trying to catch something that they can outmaneuver them.
Carolyn asks, are golden eagles bigger than bald eagles?
Well, no. This is kind of how it works. The bald eagle is a little bit larger on average to a golden eagle, but we have certainly large golden eagles and smaller golden eagles, and so a large female golden eagle can be bigger than a small male golden eagle, and so there's kind of interchangeable there. But just as an average rule of thumb, bald eagles are slightly larger than their goldens.
Okay, Robert Dyer comments, he has no sweat glands like a dog and needs to open his mouth to cool himself when he is warm.
Yes, that is absolutely true. You can see he's panting a little bit here. Now, here in my home, the temperature of my house is about 70 degrees in here. And for an eagle, that's actually warm. And so we do have to kind of watch the eagles, especially when I'm traveling, doing programs with Scout and those kinds of things. We have to take very, very close attention, because at above 70 degrees, if he becomes stressed, he can overheat and die from it. And so when we transport him, we put ice packs in his kennel. I've got a little electric fan that goes on top of the kennel as well to blow it, to keep air circulating coolly. At his chamber here at my home, we have a small portable air conditioning unit that is in his chamber. So when the temperature starts getting up over 70 to 80 degrees or so, then the air conditioner will come on, and it won't air condition his chamber, but it will give him a cool spot that he can fly over and sit in front of the air conditioner blowing cool air to help keep him cool. But with the average hawk, falcon, or owl here, heat is an issue, but not nearly as much as the eagles. And so they don't need as much effort. You are such a sweet boy. They don't need nearly as much effort to keep them cool, but the eagles certainly do.
How's he getting along with this plaque?
How's he getting along with his plaque? The first couple of days the plaque is out in his chamber, hanging on the wall in his chamber. And the first couple of days, he would take the plaque off the wall and drop it on the ground, and he'd flip it over. And, it was a novelty. And now he doesn't pay any attention to it, so it stays on the wall.
Is it dirty?
I've cleaned it off 2 or 3 times, but it's probably just dusty dirty more than anything else.
Okay. Amanda Price says, is Martin able to start doing educational programs with Scout and all your birds soon? I am a proud bird nerd.
Yes, we are right now. We are booking for June and July and forward. It Both my sweet wife Susan and I have been vaccinated, and we still have to be extremely careful. Just because you're vaccinated doesn't guarantee anything, but we're going to be very careful, and so we're going to start doing programs with some restrictions to make sure that everybody stays safe. I do worry. My wife Susan does have a compromised immune system, and the last thing I want to do is to bring something back to her that's going to make her very sick. So yes, we are starting to do programs, and they are starting to book up, school programs and scout programs and tour group programs and all that kind of stuff. So we are getting going again.
TS asks, does he ever get mad at you?
The Scout is very, very sweet. He's very, very patient with me, and so he really hasn't shown any signs of anger, but I don't give him a reason to. Like I said, my whole job in life when it comes to this guy is to make his whole world the best place possible. He is the hunter. I'm his servant. I'm his dog. And so as long as I respect that he's in charge of the relationship, like I said, I don't do anything to in any way make him upset. So, and I can promise you, an eagle that is really angry will put you in the hospital. These are dangerous animals to work with, and I know people who have had eagles in falconry that were what we call imprints that were raised inappropriately, and I can think of one guy that would take his eagle out, turn the eagle loose, and then he'd go basically as soon as the eagle's turned loose, he'd run like mad to get in his car because the eagle would go up and fly up to a cliff or go soaring, and then when he saw the guy walking out through the desert to flush rabbits, the eagle would attack him. And so he would basically put the eagle up, and then he would just watch his GPS telemetry system to see where the eagle's going, and basically if the eagle doesn't catch something, then he throws out a rabbit carcass, and the eagle flies in and gets the rabbit carcass. And then once the eagle has eaten all that it wants, then he can pick up his eagle and take it home. And that really doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. So it's a matter of handling them properly, but they can, if not handled properly, they can be incredibly dangerous to work with.
We have a comment from Colleen. She says, Scout is amazing. You are too, Susan and Martin.
Well, thank you. And yeah, he is truly a dear, dear friend. And like I said, a lot of people don't understand when you're doing the wildlife rescue, there's a lot of animals that come in here that there's just nothing we can do to help them. Their injuries are far too severe, and the only thing that we can offer them is a humane and peaceful death. That's all we can do. And it breaks my heart. It's extremely painful. And when I have an eagle pass away at our rescue center here, and it's been a very, very bad day, I can pick up Scout, and we can sit out in a shady spot outside, and we can relax, and I can talk to Scout. And Scout seems to listen. I don't know if he truly understands, but he seems to listen. And it's just comforting to be able to share my grief with my friend. Isn't that right?
Baltimore actual comments, no critters going hungry here, and that reminded me that you've got really full freezers, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness sakes. You guys have been so kind and so generous to us. You have been making donations to us through the company that we purchased frozen rats, mice, and quail for the animals called Rodent Pro, and you've been basically sending money, getting gift certificates for us, so that when we're ready to buy more food, then we just use the gift certificates and help restock our freezers with food for the animals. And not only have we been able to keep our freezers full, and I apologize because I don't have the name in front of me, but I had a very, very kind individual. Instead of doing gift certificates, basically ordered 20 bags of rats, 20 bags of mice, and 20 bags of quail on top of. And so I got an order on Wednesday 2 weeks ago, a big order to fill our freezers, and then I got a second order last Wednesday with another huge order, which just brought our freezers all the way up to the top. I am so grateful. It is expensive to feed these guys. It really is. And all of your kindness and generosities have kept us in food. There's been many, many times when I look at my freezers and we're kind of down to the bottom of the freezers and wondering, what can we do to get more food in these freezers, because we're getting to the close. And wow, with all of you guys, you've relieved a huge burden as to how I'm going to keep these animals fed, and especially because we're going into spring. In fact, I got 4 phone calls yesterday, 3 baby birds from 3 different people, and they were just little finches or little sparrows of some kind, and a baby jackrabbit. The jackrabbit didn't show up, but the 3 baby birds did. So the baby season has started, and we're going to start getting all sorts of critters in that are going to have to be cared for. And so thank you so much for all of your generosity and kindness to us. It means the world to us. And just so that you know, we do have our book on our website. See if I can get that to go the right way. There you go. This is our book, Healer of Angels. On the cover of the front cover here, that is Scout. That's our golden eagle that's sitting with me right now on the cover of the book. And Scout has autographed the book. So if you buy it off our website, you get an autographed copy. And that is, see if you can see that. So that is Scout's footprint. And so it's the only book autographed by a wild eagle. And the profits from the sale of the book, they help us feed the animals and build new facilities and keep our foundation running. So I'm very grateful for everyone that's purchased a copy of our book. It really helps us a ton.
We got a donation from Nicholas.
Well, thank you, Nicholas.
And a comment here from T. Happy anniversary, Scout.
You hear that, Scout? Happy anniversary, my friend.
And a comment from JG. Here in Argentina, we have several representatives of birds of prey, but I'm always proud to have is it Andean condor as our maximum representative of this type of bird.
I love the Andean condor. I had the privilege of working with a couple of them when I was the curator of birds of prey at Busch Gardens in California. The LA Zoo had a couple of condors. I've actually done a little bit of work for the Condor Project when I lived in California, and also if a condor gets in trouble, because we have condors now here in southern Utah, and if a condor does get in trouble here in southern Utah, I've had a couple of situations that I needed to go babysit a condor until the condor people from the World Bird of Prey Center was able to get there and pick up the condor. Condors are magnificent. There is no bird in the world that is more spectacular to watch fly than an Andean condor, and the California condor is really, really close to that as well. So yeah, I would love to go down into Chile, South America, and to witness a Andean condor flying free in its environment. I would love to do that. Again, like I said, we don't get much chance to leave southern Utah because I'm rescuing critters, but that's always been one of my dreams.
That's kind of a similar question from VC here. Is there any eagles outside of North America you would like to work with?
Oh, there are a ton of eagles outside of North America I'd like to work with. Um, both, in Asia, Africa, South America, even Australia. The Australian wedge-tailed eagle is a golden eagle subspecies. Looks very, very much like Scout, but instead of the tail being kind of straight across the bottom, it is V-shaped. So they call the wedge-tailed eagle. Um, Africa has got just a gorgeous called a Marshall's eagle, and it's a little bit larger than a golden, but they are just brilliantly colored. They're spectacular eagles. I would love to work with the Marshalls. I did have a Marshalls back in California that I worked with a little bit, but to work with one of the wild would be absolutely spectacular. South America's got all sorts of beautiful eagles, um, from the harpy eagle, which is the largest eagle in the world. A smaller version of the harpy is called the crested eagle, and it looks like a harpy, but it's about golden eagle size. They have black crested eagles. Oh, if I had a life to do over again, and I had all of the money in the world that I could spend, wow, would I love to travel the world for no other reason than to have personal experience with all of the world's eagles.
We have a question from Baltimore Actual who says, "Tell the Busch Garden story," but there's a lot of Busch Garden stories, aren't there?
There's a lot of Busch Garden stories. Um, you know, I'm not sure. Is it the story about the time that I almost lost my right arm from an eagle at Busch Gardens, or
I
the
don't, I
time
don't,
that
I don't know. Did you talk about John in your book at Busch Gardens, or is that JD
John?
John Denver?
Oh, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't think so. I don't think I put that in the book. John Denver, when he was in Los Angeles, would sneak over to Busch Gardens occasionally just to get away from people. And there were a few times when he would come into the zoo department and basically hang out with me because I was caring for the eagles, because he loved eagles, and he'd come and clean cages with me, which was just John Denver was an amazingly kind person, and at least all of my experiences that I had with him. And he was a pilot, and I'm a pilot, and so we had a lot of things in common. And I really enjoyed visiting with him. And it again broke my heart that he died in a plane crash.
well, we're coming up on our hour mark.
Okay. Well, any last questions before we go ahead and call it a day? I am
Well,
so grateful to all of you guys. You have a
we've got
question,
a
JT?
got a comment from Lydia. Scout is a well-behaved bird. He seems to know he's perching next to his best friend.
He is well behaved, and I like to think that we are best friends, but I do understand that he is wild, and even though he's very kind to me and very gentle, and we have this wonderful, wonderful relationship. It doesn't negate the fact that he's a wild animal, and you need to respect that he is wild always. Well, guys, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for visiting with us uh, again for our 15th anniversary as as friends. Um, I hope that everyone is staying healthy and safe, and please stay in touch with us, and hope to visit with you guys again soon. Thank you
Well,
so
no, I
much.
gotta throw one more question out at you. So
Sure.
looking back now, 15 years since you first saw Scout, do you have any one memory that stands out the most?
One memory that stands out the most. Boy, whatever popped in my head was the time Scout thought about hunting a badger. We were out north of town. He was flying the ledges north of town, up soaring, and I'm out on the desert flushing jackrabbits. And I saw Scout kind of fly off in a different direction, and so I went running that direction, and I saw Scout go down really quickly into the ground, and thought he had maybe caught a rabbit. And when I got there, he had a badger cornered in a shallow hole, and that's really bad. The badger could kill him, but he had that badger basically down the shallow hole, and he was down the edge of the hole. Look at the badger, and you see the badger's head sticking just out of Scout's reach, and so I grabbed him up and ran away. If he'd gotten a fight with that badger, I could have easily lost him, and that would have been tragic.
Okay, so should we sign off?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, let's call it a day. And like I said, guys, be safe and hope to see you soon. Thank you.